So right now I'm working on a Janome Gem Platinum. And the problem with this machine here is that it got real hard to turn and the machine shut off and wouldn't turn back on. And then later on it turned back on. The problem here is that the lower bushing and shaft have failed. And what that means is the sewing machine has an upper shaft that turns, and that controls the needle going up and down and the take-up lever assembly. And then there's a lower shaft which moves the hook and the feed teeth for the stitch length. And now the shafts are connected by a timing belt. So the timing belt goes from the top through the machine down to the bottom. There's quite a bit of tension on that belt, and so it doesn't want to have any slack. So what happens is the lower shaft starts over here, and there's a bushing here and a bushing here. And then you've got the belt on the other side. What that shaft looks like is this. So on one end, there's a bushing, and on this end is the belt, and the belt is pulling up towards this way. And then there's another bushing here, which you can see inside. Let me get a pointer here. Pardon my photography skills, not so hot, but this is the bushing right here where the shaft goes through. So what the shaft is it's a steel shaft, and it's very smooth and polished. This is the bushing, and it's oil impregnated metal. It's very porous and it's impregnated with oil. So as the machine turns and it creates a lot of friction, it creates heat, and the oil in the bushing can lubricate the shaft without having to oil it all the time. So what happens is if this bushing and shaft fail, if this bushing begins to fail, it will leak oil, black oil, and it will scratch the shaft, and it'll eventually just seize up and tighten, and it won't turn anymore. And then when it cools down a few minutes, it will become, it will shrink and it will start turning again, but then eventually it will get tighter and tighter until it won't move anymore. That's so if you look carefully inside of this machine where the bushing is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see that there's some black material that's coming through there, and that is the telltale sign that this has failed. If you look on the other side of the gear, I don't know if I can see it in there. Well, if I zoomed in, oh, there you go. You can see the black stuff here. Let me see if I can get my pointer in there. Here we go. Right there is where the shaft is going through, and you can see there's some black goo. And that is, sure enough, a bad bushing. So what has to happen here? Well, it's pretty simple, but it's also, whoops, not so simple. The whole shaft has to be removed with the bushing on the end, or well, it's just a part of the shaft to keep it from sliding. The bushing has to stay intact. This one doesn't have much stress on it, so it never fails. Then you have keepers. You have the feed lifting cam. You have the spring, and there's other parts inside that you can't see. The gear. There's also another feed timing cam, and then of course inside there's all kinds of stuff you got to take off. You got to take the upper the belt off, and this entire shaft has to be removed. The bushing has to be knocked out and a new one put in, and then adjusted properly because it's on an eccentric. And then the shaft can be put back in, a new shaft, with and then everything has to be realigned and retimed so it matches the upper timing setting. So that's how a bushing works in lower shaft bushing. And a Janome, that also happens in other sewing machines. Just a variety of different kinds. So, and it can also happen on this upper shaft, which is more rare for some reason, but there it is.